everybody, and welcome back to the Chilluminati podcast, episode 164. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Mike Martin, joined by the Catherine O'Hara and Eugene Levy of LA.
Whoa.
Jesse and Alex.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Throwing out some curveballs.
I'm gonna be real. I know that I'm Eugene Levy. I know who I am. I know what I am.
You feel like you're Eugene Levy and I'm Catherine O'Hara? I'll take that.
Yeah. No,
I
mean,
be
I know.
Catherine O'Hara.
Yeah, you very much are. Absolutely.
I want to be. Yeah. I aspire. If only I could be.
I'm blown away. As you've never agreed with like any of my choices, really.
that was
Feels
pretty
great
easy.
to be
But
alive.
today,
Yeah.
the one of the weirder ones today, bam! You just take
you
it
thought
like
this was
it's,
weird?
with a spoonful of sugar.
You thought this was weird? No.
Out of all the ones I've gone through,
It's like
yeah,
if you were
okay,
like
come
the
on.
melted cheese and bacon of LA. It's like anybody wins, we lose. Or everybody loses, we win.
It's a win-win. Yeah.
The opposite of Alien versus Predator.
From the last episode where we talked about cheese dreams, we were sent a study article on Twitter that shows that that's not true. Like cheese has no real, or dairy really doesn't have any
So again,
influence
what
on
about
your dreams.
pizza makes me have crazy dreams?
Maybe it's all in your subconscious. Maybe you associate pizza with crazy dreams, so you go to bed and your brain gives you those crazy
Here's
dreams.
the thing. I can go out there and I can get an article that tells you that most of those alien sightings are fake. Fake.
I mean, it's true though.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I don't want to end up on the conspiracy side of pizza
The
dreams,
truth is
but I
out
think
there.
I'm there. And I'm going to let you know, I have evidence now that cold pizza does not equal pizza dreams. But
It's not about the hot pizza bubbles your guts.
if it's like late and I haven't eaten all day and I'm like, oh man, I'm hungry, and I order pizza and that shows up and it's a nice hot pizza, and then I go to bed
I get it.
within like 2 or 3 hours of that, dreams. Not just dreams, crazy dreams.
Those little yellow cheese fumes curling into your nose.
Is it the cheese? Maybe it's like the cheese sauce meat. You know I'm going to get pepperoni. It's a
Could it be
fact.
the crust, or do you get the same place almost every time?
No.
All right.
If I eat pizza late, it's whatever's open, and I'm never actually ever
Fair.
concerned about where I'm getting it from, because I'm like, I just want something that isn't a burger.
on Beard Bros the other day, we were literally like, why does pizza even have crust?
What?
Because otherwise you'd be eating tomato soup
No.
and cheese.
I mean, okay. First of all, if we're going to be real, I have to like go back.
You
because we
mean
did talk about
like
this.
outer
First
edge
of all,
crust?
there should be two words for the things that are crust on pizza. One is the handle and one is the plate, right? I'm not talking about
I get
the
it.
plate.
I get it.
I'm
You're talking about the handle?
Yeah.
So you're talking
Okay.
about like the Midwest style of pizza, where it is
Yeah, like a Detroit or a Chicago style, or even
not
like
Detroit
a
or
Sicilian.
Chicago. There's like a very specific style that is like, if you look up Donato's
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Casano's or Marion's Pizza, like all the Midwestern Italian named places where it's flat and there is no edge and it's cut into squares. That's
Yeah, it's like a Sicilian. Oh no, okay, that's different. This is a whole other thing. This is a bar pie. This is a totally other.
yeah, that's what I'm referring. Like it
situation.
doesn't have it. It's that.
Yeah,
it's
but
like,
yeah,
you know,
right on. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, this toppings up to the edge.
Yes.
Like we have a spatula. You know, you don't need the handle.
And honestly,
It's
it's
It's just big pizza.
what's fun about those
Taking your
is that the
toppings away.
outsides, there's a little bit of crust, and that's fine. But the insides are like toppings, and it's a perfect square. And you're just like, I don't even know how to hold this. My hands is greasy and nasty. F it. Delicious. Delicious.
You can crack it in half like a little cracker, probably too.
That's
you know
true,
what I mean?
but then it kind of drips in down
And
the
most of
middle.
those things
and
have
you're
like
losing some
cracker thin
pizza.
crusts anyway. The crusts are always
Yeah.
super thin on those.
I'm a handle man. I like a handle on a pizza. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna go out there. Give me that handle. Keep my hands clean.
I'm not trying to hate.
It's gotta be a good. If you're gonna have a handle on a pizza, it can't be like
Throwaway,
Pizza Hut,
right?
It can't be
Yeah.
like garbage. I need
I
that
agree
crust
there.
to be delicious. I need to be like
Fluffy,
an old
sweet
man tossed
tasting.
it 5 minutes
Yeah.
before. Like
Proofed bread.
Proofed bread. Yes.
Yeah, but see, you live in LA where like those kinds of options are all over the place, all the time, anywhere you go.
You say that, but I stand on the firm belief that while it is difficult to get many types of foods around this country, you can always find a homemade scratch-ass pizza from some dude named like Sal or Vinny or like Scaramucci. I don't even know, some guy.
The three pizzaiolo names. Yeah.
I promise you can find something in your town. There's always it's not Pizza Hut or Domino's or Papa John's. There's some guy named like Fat Tony who is straight up making a pie, and it looks like the rundown dump, and you drive by it all the time, and you're like, I don't want to go there. Telling you, that's the place to go. That guy is like...
And speaking of taking a chance on something that you've driven by a million times,
I was trying to
head on
figure.
down to patreon.com/ChilluminatiPod, where you can get a big slice of our pizza pie by helping us keep our doors afloat and keeping our lights open. And, there's a lot of great stuff. We just launched a second show called Rotten Popcorn, where we talk over movies that you probably haven't seen before.
I hope not.
So if you're willing to broaden, some well-curated films to broaden your cinematic rock bottom, if you want to like deepen your rock bottom,
you want to widen your foundation.
yeah, that's a great spin on what I said. Head on over to patreon.com/ChilluminatiPod, where you can watch a 90-minute movie, or at least us talking about a 90-minute movie that somebody made for $500 or something about Sasquatch.
Suburban Sasquatch is a masterpiece of a man's individual vision.
If you're one of those people who doesn't call in friends in Dark Souls, this is the movie watching experience for you. Let me tell you, if you let him solo her, this bud's for you, pal.
I like it. Very good.
Yeah, it's very nice.
Patreon.com/Chilluminatipod, the website.
I'm really excited to see where that phrasing ends up in like another year or so. Okay. That said,
What?
Oh, hey, no. One last thing I want to put out there. Two things, actually. More shilling. Hey, guys, if you want more plushies, go to theyeti.com/Chilluminati and go sign up for like their little plushie newsletter. We sold out of our first 2 runs. And if they're going to make more runs, they need to know that there is a demand for more of the plushies.
While we're on this, also, while that Mothman plushie is fantastic, one of the best plushies I've ever seen, period.
True.
Give us your thoughts on what you want next.
Yeah.
What would you want to add to with the Mothman collection? What's the
coolest thing you could think of?
Yeah. Is it like a cute chupacabra? Is it like some sort of Jersey Devil, but he's eating like a meatball sub? He's like, I got
Let's
a
license
sub.
the Let's license the old game. Let's get a plushie of the old game. Let's license it from the publisher.
Yeah, do you want a plushie Bean Boy?
Yeah.
I would do a, oh man, yeah, we got to do a plushie Bean Boy.
Should we do locally sourced, delicious East Coast beans?
Should we have a Bean Boy, and he has a zipper, and in the back you can store your nugs. Just put it out there.
I love
Just
that
put
idea.
it out there.
I love that idea.
He has like a little like a union suit buttons on his
Yeah,
butt.
then you like pull it down. You stick it in his butt. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where you would have to put it.
Yeah.
That's the only place it belongs. But fast forward 20 years, the podcast is over, and we've got like a baked bean company instead. Like that's where this is leading us all eventually.
They're gonna catch me at the border, and I'm gonna have a shootout with police because they found my stash in my little Bean Boy union suit butt flap. But seriously, guys, we'd love to put an item in the store that when we go and we check the warehouse and see where 410 of them have gone, that they seem to be missing. And speaking of missing 410, it is time for missing 411.
It's almost time for missing. We also have live show merch that we're selling now, everybody. Please go buy our live show merch. When we did our live show in Austin, a little bit of the merch wasn't able to make it in transit in time. So we've been working on getting a store up for it. And there is now a store up for it that you can go buy the beanie that we were going to sell, as well as the t-shirt that we were going to sell. That's at chilluminati.limitedrun.com.
Oh my gosh, I'm just getting this coming over the wire. There are 410 pieces of merch in the warehouse. As people are buying and they're going missing. Speaking!
Thank you, Alex. Thank you very much.
What time out? I need to know. Why do you keep saying 410 and not 411?
Because it's the next one. I'm setting them up to alley-oop it.
But it feels like a weird alley-oop. Like, there's 410, and now
you've had
number
10.
400. Why did you say there's 411? Speaking of 411, we're on 411. Like, why not do that?
You got, you're giving it to the people. It's time for the new. It's time for Missing 411.
It's time for the new.
Before it was 410. It's
now it's
2000 and 2008, 2000 and late, 3008. You know what I'm saying?
Not at all.
I don't actually. You've lost me.
You guys remember
completely.
that song?
Yeah.
From when
Yep.
When I was young,
right?
Place. Yeah, I'm aware.
Yes, exactly.
That song that's like Laheim. Yeah.
Do you remember when Will.i.am was an X-Men?
Dude, he really was.
He was, what X-Men was he? I can't even remember.
He was like one of the Nightcrawler guys.
Yeah, teleport guy.
He teleported onto Sabretooth's hands and died.
I forgot that's how that went down. Anyway, yes, Alex,
Sabretooth, guess where he was going to be?
He was like, and there, dead.
Yeah. He was alive for 410 minutes and then he went missing. And speaking!
It's me. Hey, guys. Way back in the day, within our first year of doing this, back in 2018, in the mid-20 episodes, we did a topic called Missing 411. We did 2 pieces, 2 episodes on it, and really they were just kind of stories overall, some of the Missing 411 stories that have happened over the years. And at the end of that series, I said, one day I will return to this topic because there is so much to talk about. Well, fast forward almost 5 years, and here we are with Missing 411, kind of a soft reboot. We'll call it like a DC soft reboot that when this is over after the next 2 episodes, the next one is another soft reboot.
All the multiverses collided, and now we're like setting out again.
I guess so. But you know, in the DC way where you just cancel the movies.
Is this our phase 4? This
is our phase 4, exactly. This is our phase. Wow, this is our phase 4. Yeah.
Yeah, we have our statue that we'll never explain called the Green Stone.
Listen, I believe that eventually I'm going to make an episode that explains what I was talking about.
Eventually, I'm going to
just
make
like Marvel.
an episode.
Eventually, you'll.
I
get
believe.
there. Yeah.
I believe that I will. I have hope. I have hope that I will.
Today's episode is sponsored by PayPal Honey, and I shop online almost exclusively at this point. And if I have to go out into the wilds of the real world, I only do it when I absolutely have to. And the reason I love shopping online is because with Honey, I can save so much money. Thanks to Honey, manually searching for coupon codes is now a thing of the past. Honey is a free shopping tool that scours the internet for promo codes and applies the best one it finds to your cart. Honey supports over 30,000 online stores that range from things like tech and gaming all the way to popular fashion brands and even food delivery. The way it works is so simple. Imagine you're just shopping on one of your favorite sites, and when you check out, the Honey button drops down, and all you have to do is click the button that says apply coupons. You wait a few seconds as Honey does its thing, scouring the internet for the best discounts it can find, and applies them. I have Honey on my phone and on my PC, and there's not a single time when I'm shopping online that I don't check with Honey first to see if there's any sort of discount. And almost, I would say, 80% of the time, I get some sort of discount or some sort of coupon out there that I had no idea existed, and it saved me hundreds, maybe thousands at this point with how long I've been working with Honey. It's literally free and installs in just a few seconds, and by getting it, you'll be doing yourself a solid and supporting this podcast. I'd never recommend something I don't use. All you got to do to get Honey for free is just go over to joinhoney.com/chill. That's it. joinhoney.com/chill. Simple, right? Thanks again to Honey for sponsoring this episode. Well, before we move forward, last time, like I said, it was just kind of a bunch of stories. This time, I'm going to take a different approach. It's going to be 2 at least episodes, maybe 3. In this first episode, we're going to talk about kind of a little bit of a rehash of what Missing 411 is, as well as talk about some of the stories that we didn't talk about the first time around. So for that, Jesse, just for this episode alone, I need you to open your mind, remove the skeptic pants, and throw on that believer thong.
Right.
Because
so take my pants off.
We're just going to open our mind as to what this could be.
Right.
Okay?
No, I'm ahead of you.
And then next episode, we're going to talk a little bit more of who this particular person is that's really created this Missing 411 phenomenon, and David Paulides. We'll talk a little bit about him today, and we'll talk about what the actual scientific theories could be, and some of the new information that has come forward since we did our first couple of episodes in 2018. There have been 2 movies, and he has written a ton more books on this subject. So with that, let me just quickly clarify our sources moving forward. Pretty much all of our sources on this topic come from David Paulides, the guy who kind of created Missing 411. In that, all of his books have been used in various ways they're all titled Missing 411. So I'm just going to skip Missing 411 of the title because there are 10 books he's written. Eastern United States, Western United States and Canada, North America and beyond, The Devil's in the Details.
Wait.
These are all book titles.
Is And Canada its own book?
No. Western United States and Canada are all one book.
Okay.
Eastern United States is one book, though. So it goes Eastern United States, Western United States and Canada, North America and beyond, The Devil's in the Details, A Sobering Coincidence, Hunters, Off the Grid, Law, Canada, Montana. With the most recent one, The Book of Montana, coming out in 2020, as well as the 2 documentaries, Missing 411, which came out in 2017, and Missing 411, The Hunted, which came out in 2019. So this is like where all the Missing 411 stuff comes from. And that might be kind of dubious for a lot of people out there, myself included. If you're talking about a phenomenon that, is all coming from one individual, then you kind of really need to take everything he's saying with a grain of salt. If you don't remember what Missing 411 are, they're basically missing persons cases in the national parks and elsewhere that David Paulides and the believers of Missing 411 maintain and believe are unusual, mysterious, and cannot be explained in a lot of the other ways missing people in the parks go missing. So he rules out wildlife. He rules out like hypothermia or any of the things that could cause people to walk away. If you remember,
time out before we jump into this. Have we if you're brand new, just listening, have you explained what all this is yet?
What do you mean? Well, what is
hypothermia? Missing 411? No,
that's what I'm doing right now. I'm rehashing what Missing 411 is.
Yeah, that's what this episode
right now.
This very moment, I feel like we jumped right in.
I think what Mathis is referring to is the fact that last time we got into this,
that was years ago, by the way.
We kind of like
we just talked stories and
we kicked a little beehive, actually.
Yes,
I don't know if you remember this.
Yes,
I don't know if you remember this. Yeah.
It was one of the first episodes that did like really high numbers out of nowhere because it popped up on the Missing 411 subreddit. And to those people, I hope you're listening again because we're taking this a bit of a different approach this time around.
I don't remember. It was so long ago. I don't remember the last approach we took. Set us up. What is all this about? Who is missing? Why are they missing? What's going on?
Who is missing? It's a very good question.
Missing 411 is documented missing people's cases in national parks and elsewhere that the people who believe these missing 411 stories firmly stand in the camp that it is not a natural occurrence. So it wasn't wildlife. They didn't fall into a cave. They didn't get hypothermia and walk away. They believe something paranormal or something strange or maybe governmental is going on behind the scenes. And that is the general basis of Missing 411. And the one example I can think of from the 2 episodes we did way back when was, remember the hunting trip that an old man went on with his son. And his son went out to go grab some supplies and the old man was sitting in the chair. And when he came back, his father was gone. He couldn't find any tracks as to where he went. He didn't take his weapon, and they never were able to find him. And the big thing that people point at is that because the National Park Services in the US aren't able to put forward every single missing persons, or a lot of them aren't necessarily marked because so many missing people go missing every year in our national parks, that they must be hiding something. There must be something more happening behind the scenes.
Yeah, people can't really swallow that fact that like you're just such a statistic at that point because of how just the sheer volume of disappearances is just overwhelming for the size of the Ranger Service to like look into them all.
Correct. And we will talk more about that specifically, the statistics of missing people in the areas where a lot of these missing 411 cases go on, all in the next episode when we try and break this down more. Today, again, I'd like more or less to just kind of take in the stories and let your mind be open to the possibilities and see where these people might be coming from when they read these stories. Now, another big important thing before we move forward is David Paulides. While we'll talk about him much more in the next episode, just a very brief overall as to who this man was. Early in his career, David Paulides was actually received an undergraduate and graduate degree from University of San Francisco. And in 1977, he had a 20-year career in law enforcement, transferring in 1980 to the San Jose Police Department, and then working in the patrol division on the SWAT team and street crimes unit and a variety of other assignments. Now, this all comes from his self-written online biography posted in 2013 on his website. So you can kind of go read all about him. But it seems that he has a very long history in doing investigation and working with the police. And he was a cop The reason he was actually let go is because he was fired. And the reason he was fired is actually kind of funny and really doesn't really speak of him as a person. In terms of his like morals or moving forward and as an investigation. The reason that David Paulides was fired in 1996 was that he was, it's kind of funny. He was soliciting celebrity autographs on city stationery. So basically he was kind of like forging like, hey, this is official business. Can you sign this? And then he would just collect autographs from the stationery.
What an unfortunate like mark on your record to have.
You could go look at the archived results for his record. But that's the reason he was let go from the police, is because the man wanted his autographs. So you know what? Power to you, man. I've done worse in my life when it comes to like jobs. That's really funny. I very much appreciate that. Moving forward after that, though, that's when David Paulides finds himself in the world of, I would say, cryptozoology. His first big thing was somebody approaching him to try and prove or disprove that Bigfoot was a hoax. This led to a huge search. He created a Bigfoot researching foundation called the North American Bigfoot Search. And he did come across what he believes to be evidence. This was all sent off to geneticists. They got to look at a piece of blood, a piece of hair, and a bunch of other things. And the geneticists that did look at it were able to determine that there was partial human DNA in there, but there was DNA that they could not figure out what it was. And their belief is that it pointed to some sort of humanoid branch of existence that would be Bigfoot. Maybe they, and a lot of things was like, maybe they braid their hair, maybe they live in colonies, this, that, and the other. But it's also important to point out that when that report did come out, other geneticists went through it and basically said it's a bunch of shit, that their research isn't well done. There's a lot of immediate assumptions, even though I believe they said the term the DNA of angels was used as part of the research, which immediately throws their research into bias. So it's tough if that's like, you know, that's the thing that you kind of lean on in order to prove that you got it. You know, it's kind of
this
weak.
Is clearly Nephilim.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, okay.
But I'm not going to say whether I think it's true or not, but it seems chill. It seems like it's a nice thought.
Yeah. He wrote 2 books about Bigfoot, one in 2008 called The Hoopa Project, Bigfoot Encounters, and one in 2009 called Tribal Bigfoot. Those are, you know, we're not really talking about his Bigfoot work in this, but that's where he started until eventually he moved into 2012. And that's when his Missing 411 work began. And his self-admitted reason he came into this 411 world is because an anonymous park ranger approached him, having known his work with the Bigfoot and how he got there, and said, hey, there's something fishy going on with these missing people. You know, I know the inside scoop. We're not reporting everybody. There's some weird patterns going on. I want you to check it out. Who this Lone Ranger was, what his name was, David Paulides never, ever, ever clarifies in any of the books. We never really know. It's just the launching off point for him doing so much research into Missing 411. And he's been doing it still. Like, he's still heavily involved in doing a lot of the research for it, as evidenced by his book released only two years ago at this point. Again, more details on David Paulides next episode, but that gives you a general idea as to who this man is, what Missing 411 is, and how this particular individual who really champions this stuff got himself into this world. If you want any of his books, just be aware, they're so expensive. They're like $100 minimum because they're just not really in print. They didn't print a ton of copies. And I would suggest, you know, if you can get one from a library, which is how I got a hold of my first one, initially, then that's your best bet. And you don't need to read them in order. You know, they're just different parts of the world where he talks about that stuff. So any questions, gentlemen? Raise your hands. Questions, comments, concerns, now that we've laid the foundation down for Missing 411 and we go into...
I will say, if you're looking for Missing 411 stuff, they're $50-ish on eBay, if that makes you feel better.
Oh, hey, eBay's the way to go. Yeah, I only looked on Amazon and stuff like that where I could get like a new copy or something, which is my own mistake.
I wonder if the library has any, or is it considered
That's not that bad.
The library I got mine from was actually through one of our assistant researchers back in the day, and she was like a professional researcher who had access to an exclusive library that had it. So I only had a certain amount of time with it. So I don't know how easy it is otherwise.
Sure.
You can usually order stuff. Libraries are pretty like good about that stuff.
And check your secondhand bookstores too.
Absolutely.
Like, you never know what you can find in like Half Price Books or something along
Man,
those
there
lines.
used to be a store actually called Half Price Books, wherever it's at.
I know. I have like two
remember
near me.
that,
I
yeah.
go to them all the time. I love them. It's where I get a lot of like, if I can get my books for research there first, that's where
That's
I always
honestly
go.
where you're gonna find most of this stuff. Let's be real. If you're looking
Dude,
for
anything
things,
like-
you're gonna find a lot of Half Price books.
Most of my alien books I got from there, and they all have awesome highlights and handwritten notes
Yeah,
throughout
that's the
all of
best.
them. It's just so, I love that shit.
There's a great store like that right up the street that's like indie. I don't want to say the name of it because it will direct you directly to my home. but
yeah, don't do that. Don't do that.
It's pretty good. Correct me if I'm wrong here, just because I think you jogged my memory when you said something about a pattern.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the big like dramatic reveal of this, or like one of the big like memorable facts, I guess.
I think
is
you're going
like
to talk about something that I do plan on bringing up next episode. Is it the cave systems?
Yeah, this is just the missing people. If you overlay them with like government bases or something like that, it's
There's
like
just two things you can overlay them with, which is the government basis one, which actually you jogged my memory. I actually completely forgot that we even talked about that.
this is missing 411 we're talking about, right? That's what
Correct.
that is.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. But the other thing too is when you overlay a map of known cave systems across the US, they line up. And if there's
Right.
one thing I've learned over the past 4 years, especially on like being on TikTok more and stuff, is that caving is dangerous, first of all. And second of all, there are so many unknown caves out there that people just find. And they are sometimes really easy to just like get stuck in or get caught in. And the people who go out of their way to do that stuff, man, your balls are heavier than I could ever imagine. There are people like, okay, I gotta stop filming now because I have to collapse. Like I have to breathe out all my air and I gotta squeeze through and I can't fit if I'm just gonna hold my arm out in this way. So I'll be.
I watched a dude like crush his way through the tiniest of passages, and I was like, no, there's nothing that I would ever do that for. That is how you die underground and the Morlocks eat you. No, I'm all right.
Yeah, it's awful.
Read too many horror stories about just dudes that are just stuck and they're gonna die and they just like die. You just like find them and they just can't get out.
They get stuck and then they're gonna die and then they die.
Like you find them in the cave. You know, like you know where your buddy is, but they're just like upside down and they're stuck and they can't fucking get out. And you just sit there and your buddy just fucking dies in a cave underground. Like it's fucking
It's the
nuts.
worst. It's awful.
Yeah.
It's scary as hell. Like I was thinking about that one guy who got stuck upside down and they couldn't get him. So they had to leave him there and they had to close the cave off and leave a memorial plaque. And he's just there because they couldn't get him out.
Yeah.
Anyway, then before we move on to the stories, the one last thing I want to reference is that DNA, just to give you an idea of what the professionals, because we're not going to revisit the DNA next episode. I don't plan on talking about Bigfoot. So I just want to let you know what other people said about that particular report. This comes from the name of the website is skepticalenquirer.org, but we're just using quotes from the geneticists that studied the actual report, not from the author of
This is somebody who had firsthand.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it says the few experienced geneticists who reviewed the paper reported a dismal opinion of it, noting it made little sense. The DNA sequences did indeed contain matches of human chromosome 11, a lot of undetermined DNA, and some that in part matched to other animals. Thus, the whole sequences do not resemble any known animal and are contradictory with evolutionary biology. And a curious side note, the term de novo is used in bioinformatics to designate the absence of a reference genome. Next generation sequencing, NGS technology, was used in the study to read the whole genome, a process that used to be far more time and labor intensive. There are problems with the NGS de novo protocols that can lead to poor data quality. We do not know if the results were properly evaluated prior to concluding that the genome data could be used and if the interpretation of the results is reasonable. These factors will likely come into play during the expert external reviews of the paper, which I wasn't able to find anything on. But basically, it's a mismatch. There's just so much in there, and the things that they put forward, they have no idea. If, like, they didn't even give you the preamble if it was bad or like the results were poor or not in the first place. It just gave you their conclusion at the end of the study. So it's all that's to keep in mind. It doesn't really. It's tough because David Paulides, from what I've been reading about him and these books and stuff, he kind of seems to fall into that point where I think he truly does believe this stuff is happening, but he's also so deep and it's his job now that he can't really walk away saying if he believes anything else. So it's hard, just take with what he says in his study with that in mind that, he's not necessarily the most reliable narrator in terms of like what is to be believed. But these missing people stories are true. These are all real missing people cases that we're going to go through and talk about. And then we'll talk, more about maybe the supernatural in the next one. So that is my base. That is the layout. If there's anything else you boys would like to mention, we can move forward.
Have you heard of patreon.com/ChilluminatiPod?
Yeah, there's like a bunch of missing 411 people over there. Just
they all showed up. Pay. Yeah,
they did. That's true. They all did show up.
The aliens, when they take them, they drop them off right at the like. We know what place to take you. Patreon.com.
Yeah, at the front door of our Patreon.
I saw Nope, by the way.
On the porch.
I saw Nope. Phenomenal movie. Loved it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet.
I really, really loved it. I hope you enjoy it. Okay. So the first person we're going to speaking with in the book that we're really pulling these stories from is the North America and the rest, essentially, of the book, the North America focused book. So it's going to be scattered around. And the first story we're going to talk about is by a man by the name of Paul Michael Lapierre. He went missing on July 4th, 2012 at around 7 p.m. in Arkansas. He was 66 years old at the point of his disappearance. And the thing to keep in mind is that he was a runner of many marathons. He was a big marathon guy. So he was pretty in shape for all of this. And by AK, I guess I meant Alaska, not Arkansas. Michael Lapierre, he was a runner who disappeared, though it's not only unusual, but almost also because he's unheard of. Admittedly, that the races that this particular author, David Paulides, run were along major city streets, so his comparisons are not comparable to rural forest areas. And the disappearance that we're discussing here occurred at one of the oldest races in the world, at a location where they had never before had a fatality or a disappearance. The Mount Marathon in Seward, Alaska. Seward is a port city just 60 miles south of Anchorage, with its primary elevation at sea level. The Mount Marathon is described as follows on the Seward Chamber of Commerce website. Quote, launched in 1915, the 3-mile Mount Marathon is a combination run, hike, and scramble up Seward's signature 3,022-foot peak. The race is limited to a certain number of runners that are chosen through a lottery and competitive activities. The race starts in downtown Seward and then heads up the mountain to the summit and then back down again. God, I can't run down my stairs and back up my stairs without being out of breath. Never mind doing a mountain marathon. That's why you do podcasts run.
And not marathons.
Right, man? Yeah, exactly. We're podcast men. We're podcast boys. We're not marathon
One time
boys.
we did a Final Fantasy marathon. Does that count?
Yeah.
I wasn't there, so it doesn't count for the podcast.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah. The site states that minor injuries are common, major injuries and disappearances are not. The exact length of the course is 3.1 to 3.5 miles, depending on that year's layout. So it can change, I guess. I imagine nature and whatever happened over the years would probably dictate that paths might need to change due to just like becoming untraversable. I don't really know much about like that kind of thing, but if I'm wrong, please let me know in the comments or through an email. The average angle of the trail is 38 degrees, the steepest slope is 60 degrees, and the start is at the corner of 4th Ave and Adams Street in downtown Seward. The finish line is at 4th Avenue in Washington. On July 4th, 2012, Paul Michael Lapierre had done all of the preparation possible for the race of a lifetime. At 66 years old, Paul was in very good shape for his age and was a civilian employee at Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson. Elmendorf, that's a fucking cool name, by the way.
It is. Sounds like an elf that helps.
Yes.
The fellowship.
Yeah.
Sounds like a boss from Castlevania is what it sounds like.
He was a counselor who assisted people leaving the military and getting their resumes in order, and he had registered for the Mount Marathon and was assigned bib number 548. Paul had family members at the start line 3 p.m. when the gun went off to begin the race. So people were there. His family was there. Everybody saw he took off at this marathon with all eyes on him. He just wanted to make a respectable run and complete the course in a timely manner. Just as a barometer of how fast this race can be completed, Fred Moore, who was 72, completed that year's course in 1 hour, 11 minutes, and 34 seconds.
Damn.
This was Moore's 43rd consecutive race. Good. At 72, hopefully I can get up. Hopefully I can stand up. As the race was taking place, there were a few unusual events that were occurring. In 2 separate incidents, runners fell in a steep section of the course and were seriously injured. There were very few details about what exactly happened other than the injuries that were listed as serious. This was a very unusual occurrence for the race, as the Chamber of Commerce was proud of its history of being a safe race. Paul was wearing black running shorts and a black running shirt. He had poor eyesight and was not wearing glasses the day of the race. From all accounts that were reviewed for this segment, Paul was the last racer on the mountain. A July 9th, 2012 article in the KTUU.com website had this explanation from the last person to see Paul. Quote, according to the chamber, a race timing crew stationed up at the top of the mountain began its descent at 5:45 p.m. The lead timer, who was not named in the statement, spoke with Peter Lapierre at about 6 p.m. when he was nearing the mountaintop. The timer had reported that Mr. Lapierre verbally confirmed that he wanted to continue, chamber officials wrote Monday. He looked good and did not demonstrate any sign of distress or physical or emotional concern and was moving slowly and steadily up the mountain. The timer then continued down the trail. At 6 p.m., a race official spoke to Paul's wife and explained that he had been seen and was fine. They explained that if he wasn't down the mountain in 90 minutes, she should contact the authorities, but they thought he was fine. So I feel like that's mistake one.
Right.
Is that
yes.
You should not have left, like, was that, I want to know, was that part of procedure? To leave this man who was moving slowly behind just because he verbally gave you the okay? Or should you not, for safety's sake, always have somebody behind the last runner? Always. Like, I feel like that's common sense.
I think it's the same premise as in boxing. If the fighter's telling you, I can still do this, I can still do this, you as a responsible corner man need to be like, no, bro, I'm throwing in the towel. Like, you cannot. Your brain may, but your body is like bloody and beaten. No, I don't want you dead. And so I have a feeling that's the same thing here. There should be someone to advocate for idiots who are like, I can do this. I can do it. You know?
If you're running through the forest.
Alone, last one in the race, moving slowly, admittedly through the quotes, he was moving slowly up the mountain.
Not trying to shift blame on anyone.
No.
You know, nothing like that, but just like, damn, you know?
Yeah, that poor guy. So eventually, at 8 p.m., Paul's wife contacted race officials and notified them that Paul still had not come back from the race. So race officials contacted the Seward Fire Department, who in turn contacted the Alaska State Troopers, and a search was started. Searchers encountered treacherous conditions as they tried to cover every conceivable location where Paul may have wandered. The visibility was horrible at times, as fog had hit the mountain. Ground searchers confronted 2 black bears that ran away from people, but no grizzlies were sighted. There was a dusting of snow near the summit of Mount Marathon the night that Paul vanished. Searchers carefully examined the area and found no tracks. Alaska State Troopers, quote, hello teams, responded and continually covered the mountain with a FLIR. Helicopter team, sorry. Covered the mountain with a FLIR and found no evidence of Paul. For those who don't know what a FLIR is, it's like a heat camera, checking for heat signatures. The Alaska Mountain Rescue Group covered the mountain on the ground and found nothing related to Paul. And then he goes on, Paulides, the guy, the writer of this book, goes on to say, quote, to understand the scope of the search for Paul, the Alaska Dispatch ran an article on July 9th, 2012, explaining who contributed to the effort to find the runner. Hundreds of volunteers have been involved in the rescue operation, including the Alaska Mountain Rescue, Nordic Ski Patrol, Alaska Search and Rescue Dogs, Bear Creek Volunteer Fire Department, National Park Services, Seward Police and Fire Department, the Air National Guard, Alaska State Troopers, and many Seward residents, as well as racers who returned to Seward to help with the search. So they went all hands on deck. Yeah, they gave it everything that they could to find this man.
Do we know the square
several dog teams
mileage or kilometerage of the space they had to look?
They did. They don't. I don't have.
Because if this is the Alaskan wilderness, I would have to imagine.
The Alaskan wilderness.
People get lost in state parks infinitely smaller than that and are never seen from again. I would imagine
Correct.
This dude in the Alaskan wilderness, gone. Just gone.
The trail itself, remember, was anywhere between 3.1 to 3.5 miles. We know that.
Sure, I mean, but that's the trail.
But
so
that's the trail.
You have to imagine the area
really
around it. That's oh boy.
I mean, I don't have that information on hand, and it's not on hand in the sources I use. But I wonder if we could get that information. That'd be good to know.
What is the name of the park again? Or the area?
It was in Seward, yeah. Bear Creek yeah.
Right.
You're looking at the Seward.
Alaska, I assume after Seward's Folly, I would imagine.
The Mount Marathon. You're looking at the Mount Marathon area, so look for that. Thank you to Talkspace for sponsoring this episode. When it comes to therapy and psychiatry, getting the help that you need has never been so simple. When you're able to access your provider from the comfort of your device, it means therapy can be on your schedule. And alleviating the wait times to get an appointment or the travel time to an office can free up time for the rest of your life. Talkspace is so convenient and accessible, it helps me feel supported around the clock. Talkspace lets you send and receive unlimited messages with your dedicated therapist in the Talkspace platform 24/7. With Talkspace, you set goals with your therapist and they hold you accountable and make sure you're really progressing. Therapy can help you shift your perspective, find tools to cope in difficult times, and be a guiding light. I have been in therapy for freaking years now, and I wouldn't change a thing. And that's the key part of going to therapy. Understanding that it is a tool to help you cope in difficult times and assist you in keeping yourself healthier in the mental space. Moreover, Talkspace is affordable. It's a fraction of the cost of in-person therapy, and instead of waiting for an appointment, you can send unlimited messages to your therapist 24/7, and they'll engage with you daily 5 days a week. Talkspace has thousands of licensed therapists with years of experience in over 40 specialties, including depression, anxiety, substance abuse, trauma, anger management, relationship issues, food and eating, and so much more. It's also very secure. Talkspace is secure and private by using the latest end-to-end bank-grade encryption technology to store client information and complying with the latest HIPAA regulations. And as a listener of this podcast, you'll get $100 off your first month with Talkspace. To match with a licensed therapist today, go to Talkspace.com. Make sure you use the code CHILL to get that $100 off of your first month and show your support for our show. That's CHILL at Talkspace.com. Thanks again to Talkspace for sponsoring this episode. Mount Marathon in Seward, Alaska.
I absolutely see it.
He disappeared on July 4th, 2012.
Seward is a small town. It's big. The airport takes up as much space as like the downtown of Seward.
It's surrounded by nature.
I mean, it is. It is.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It is. It is one of the more southern parts of Alaska, but it is still, if you scroll out, all mountains and greenery and wow.
Yeah.
But very much not the scenery that I was imagining. Very much more like long lines of sight, wide open mountainsides. You know what I mean, with like scrub.
Okay, so not it's not.
I mean,
thick
it's right
wooded,
it's right on the water.
Yeah,
it's on a lake and it's like above, and it looks like they're. I mean, here's the thing: if we're talking about cave systems, I could totally see there being a cave here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
sure.
I'd like what Jesse was saying about like you're just gone. Like it doesn't really look like it would be that east to disappear right here. Like,
I
it looks
completely agree or disagree. Sorry, this like if you look at this, there's the city, which is on the Cape of or whatever it is, the Gulf of Alaska, in the northern Pacific, and then straight up there are Bear Lakes and all sorts of different things, but then just miles and miles and miles and miles of just rugged terrain. Yes, it's beautiful, and yes, you can see, but I know if you let me there, I would die. I just know that I would be dead. If I got lost out there, gone.
But I'd find you. You'd be dead, but I'd find you.
I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. I've never been there. I'm looking at like 6 pictures, but
yeah,
it's pretty I see how it could be vexing that somebody would just disappear here.
Yeah, again, I'm with you. I can see how it could be vexing compared to like, other cases that we talked about where it's just thick woods fucking everywhere. But let's move forward. Still, even on top of all those things that they did to search, they even put dog teams out there from the Alaska Search and Rescue Dogs to cover the mountain, attempting to find Paul's scent, but nothing of value ended up being found by the canine search teams. So, to kind of over it, Paul Lapierre disappeared in an area where there had been hundreds of runners, an area that had a very well-marked trail, and an overlook near the summit where there can be no mistake in which direction Seward and the finish line is located. The summit area has very little foliage, lots of rock and dirt and boulders. An extremely comprehensive 4.5-day search for Paul failed to find him or any evidence that he was on the mountain, yet we know for a fact that he was 200 feet from the summit at around 5:45 to 6 p.m. on July 4th.
Like, my dude summited, you know what I mean? Like, he summited. Yeah,
he summited. He was at the top. Paul actually saw the direction that the race officials were walking down the mountain. He knew the correct path to take. He was less than 2 miles from his family and from safety.
How do we know that? How do we know that?
Because he was at the summit of the top.
Right. But like, how do we know what he knew or thought at that point?
Well, he was just seen and he was there, and they had an interaction, so he saw them go the other way.
But how do we,
I mean, there's no way to know that he knew that was the direction to go, I guess. There's no way to know in his mind.
Is what you're saying. Right. I'm just saying.
I would assume he knew it before running the marathon, and if he summoned it and he saw them going down, I imagine they would have followed him down.
I absolutely would imagine that a person in the right state of mind 100% could figure that out. But if you're hurt in any way, like this guy potentially was, just imagine like you're in a car and you have to go to the bathroom really bad. You don't give a shit about anything around you, you're just looking for a bathroom. And if you're hurt, have you ever gone for a long walk or something and you have like, I don't know, like a blister or something? And you no longer are focused on anything but like, just, oh God.
I can't even go get my coffee and not feel bad when I have a blister.
That's what I'm saying. So like, I don't know. I don't know what could.
Yeah, it's hard. I agree. It's the circumstances again, and this tends to be the case with a lot of these missing 411s, is that there's always something that you can kind of point to and be like, well, if that didn't happen, we would likely wouldn't be here. And that would be leaving the man behind who is in his late 60s, no matter how good a shape he's in, on a mountain trail alone when your job is to be a spotter and a timer. Should you not be following behind the runner? Yeah, it's a whole, exactly, that's a whole ass dude. And granted, they did the best search that they could. Everybody was involved. Top of the line FLIR technology was being used. They were trying to find this man and they couldn't. But also important to keep in mind is that as the searchers were going forward, they were met with really bad weather. Fog, rain, the snow. Canines had a hard time getting a scent on the trail, and it was then confirmed that Paul had poor eyesight. He was the last runner on the trail when he vanished, and while utilizing the FLIR, they couldn't find Paul, even though he stood at a 6'2" and 250-pound frame. Paul wasn't a small man.
Oh, it was also snowing then?
It snowed after. It dusted afterward. It did like a snow dusting.
So a heat thing would have had trouble finding stuff in snow.
Would he not, correct me if I'm wrong, would he not stick out like a sore thumb on FLIR as a warm body amongst many cold?
I mean, if he's dead, that's a cold ass body.
True. If he is dead, then yeah, he's done. Like if he died from exposure.
I mean, what are we saying? Like somebody, how soon after was that, FLIR?
2 days.
I mean, he could be well dead then, and
he could be. And then it wouldn't pick up anything.
Yeah.
Are we saying in the 200 feet from the summit that he like fell in a hole?
I mean, he could have fallen
on his way down the mountain, possibly.
He could have fallen anywhere. He could have hurt himself. There's so many things that could happen.
Remember, they gave him 90 minutes to get back. So I assume they expected it was still going to be a heck of a go still.
It takes seconds for trouble to happen. So, if he has trouble seeing and he's potentially hurt in some way, he's having struggles and he has to get back down, sometimes going down the mountain is a little bit harder than going up. Because you have to like balance yourself a little, because it's steep, and so he's not a young guy where he can just run down. I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
But that's right. That's it. That's what I want. I don't know. Like there's enough there to say they definitely were in the wrong, and they definitely contributed to his disappearance. But the circumstances, the landscape around it, them breaking out everything, and they couldn't find him. And this man was like not a stranger to marathon running. It's weird. It's very, very weird. But anything can happen in the wilderness too. Like he literally could have fallen into a fucking hole. He could have hurt or twisted his ankle, and then a fucking tiger or like a mountain lion took him out or something after, at night or something. Who knows? But no one heard him screaming for help. But can you really hear him?
He wasn't that far away from town.
He was, again, he was about 2 miles out.
You can see town from the summit and it's close. Yeah.
Yep. So that's our first story. Just to leave it out there a little bit of, I can see it both ways. Next up, we're going to talk about a woman who went missing in 1966. A woman by the name of Amy Jackson, who disappeared in Deer Creek campgrounds in Sequoia National Park. She was 18 months old at the time of her disappearance. She was barely over a year old. So Amy Jackson and her parents traveled from their residence in Upland, California to the Deer Creek campgrounds in Sequoia National Park for a weekend of camping. The family arrived on Saturday, August 13th and quickly established camp. After the family had eaten and relaxed, they entered their tent and went to sleep. Sometime during the night, little Amy left her parents' tent without being heard and somehow walked out into the darkness. Her parents didn't hear her leave the tent, and they had no explanation how she could have done this. The national park police were called, and they quickly sent out bloodhounds and aerial support to look for Amy. We're pretty sure the searchers were probably thinking like what the researchers were told on this case. How far could an 18-month-old really walk out into the mountains? But I want to put out there, an 18-month-old child to any wildlife probably looks like a delicious snack. Yeah. At the end of the first day of searching, commanders were so disturbed by not finding any evidence of where the girl was located and the bloodhound's inability to pick up a scent that the National Park Service didn't call their own special agents, and they called the FBI for assistance instead. The FBI summoned additional helicopters, ground searchers, equestrians, and volunteers, all looking for this young girl. The search and rescue was occurring approximately 25 miles east of Porterville at the 7,000-foot elevation. The Tulare County Sheriff had also asked the FBI for assistance as they couldn't find a trace of the girl, and the story the parents continued to tell seemed implausible at the time. 3 years later, almost the same scenario would play out again in the same park, Paulides notes. Imagine almost 400 searchers scouring the campsite and surrounding area and not finding a single trace of an 18-month-old girl. I in my note here is if she left in the middle of the night, that's when fucking predators are out. You know what I mean? Anything could quickly scoop her by the neck. And, it's an awful thought to think. And I'm not saying that, I hope this is what happened. But if anything grabbed this girl by the neck, she's not going to make a noise and she's going to be carried off to wherever the hell the animal's going to take her. It's a
little creature,
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Law enforcement, regardless, remained perplexed. On the fourth day of the search, a Kern County Special Rescue Team made a disturbing discovery, as is explained in the August 18th, 1966 article in the Arizona Republic. Quote, a crack Kern County Special Rescue Team found the 18-month-old girl's body at the base of a large rock uphill from the Deer Creek campground. The same article also states, quote, the body of little Amy Jackson was found yesterday, about 8/10 of a mile from where she disappeared 4 days earlier at a campground in the rugged Sierras north of here. Now, you probably understand why the Kern County Sheriff had called the FBI. A little 18-month-old girl disappears at night from a tent, searches and bloodhounds find nothing, and the family states they never heard her leave. That's immediately very, very, very suspicious. The search is probably covering everything downhill because that's where 90% of all children go when they are missing. I don't
Babies tumble down. It's like water. They're viscous.
Exactly. One misstep and she's going to go downhill. I don't, Paulides doesn't believe that anyone truly believed a young girl as young as Amy could walk uphill that far in a rugged region in the middle of the night at that elevation with chilly temperatures. Now, where do you boys stand on that idea that an 18-month-old wandered uphill? And it seems like without being carried up there by an animal. How capable is
this kid?
That's a good question. 18 months old, like you're not super capable, but you can walk.
Maybe.
A lot can walk, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if a kid could
not even
do
a mile.
That. I think that, you have to imagine young kids can do all sorts of insane things. And so you see footage of kids like parkouring out of their crib and stuff. So,
yeah, true, very true.
I can see how it is possible. Do I think it is likely? No.
I'm with you.
But again, the conceit of all of this is we are saying, here's a bunch of missing people. They disappeared in really crazy, weird ways. And then the logical leap then is like, they were taken. Something terrible's happened. There's a conspiracy afoot. And it's like, maybe, or just some really awful luck. Maybe, I don't know. And I feel like that's where this is all leading. It's like, these crazy people disappeared, and that's because the government kidnapped them for experiments with Bigfoots and aliens. It's like, okay. All right.
We'll talk more about that next episode for sure, but there are multiple beliefs. That it might be some sort of unknown creature, could be government abducting its own civilians. It could be weird steps into dimensional rips that teleport you halfway across the mountain. I know,
like a bonkers leap. All right, I know that's not where we're supposed to be today, but it's like
mind open.
all right, you're
open
right.
The third
You're right.
eye. Like Doctor Strange, open the third eye.
Right.
Take the makeup remover onto your forehead and remove the little skin cover that you use for your third eye.
Thank you.
Let it open right up. I can see
Thank
it on
you
the
very
webcam.
much.
He's doing
Yeah,
it.
it's working right now.
It's freaking me out. Yeah.
I like it. I didn't realize your third eye was purple.
It's a contact lens. Don't worry about it.
Okay, that's cool. I'm jealous.
Yes,
I'm very jealous.
And I would like to talk to your optometrist, mystical optometrist, because I'm looking for one sunglass.
One
Singular
whole
sunglass.
Yes. And I am. I gotta stop doing this.
Yeah, we got to move forward. So, one of the implications that the FBI put forward is that she may have even actually climbed a little higher and fell off of the boulder that she was found at the base of, implying and then moving further that she died from exposure after perhaps knocking herself out or becoming severely injured. And many of the articles that Paulides says he reviewed stated that the sheriff believed that the girl may have even been kidnapped, which is why they called the FBI in the first place. And maybe she was. Several other articles stated that a 3-mile radius around the camp had been searched prior to the finding of the body, and nothing suspicious was found, a typical result on many of these cases that are considered missing 411 adjacent. It would be useless to file a Freedom of Information Act request with the FBI regarding this case, Paulides claims, since they never release any information on an open case, and this, at least the time of this writing, remained open. In his past missing 411 books, Paulides claims that he repeatedly stated that the FBI had a very large filing cabinet with cases that feature unusual circumstances and unusual findings, as in this case.
Oh, I watched that
and
show.
Honestly, not only is it the X-Files, but also I would believe that. I mean, we've learned how many times that they've denied UFO government agencies, and then that came forward. If they had just a file of like weird disappearances, yeah, I would totally 100% buy that. That would not surprise me at all.
Literally? Like, are we talking literally?
Literally, I would not be surprised if they literally
Like a
had
physical room with like just like a
maybe not necessarily like a
X-Files
physical
in there?
room, but just like cases that they just don't have an explanation for, miscellaneous or what have you.
So literally the X-Files.
No, god damn it, no.
That's what you're describing. That's the premise of the show.
I guess. I gotta come forward. I've never seen the X-Files. So.
What in the absolute?
I guess this is where I've been cornered.
Shit. Are you kidding me?
I have to come forward with the truth. I've never seen.
You don't know which one of us is the Mulder and which one of us is the Scully of LA?
Scully is the girl, right? And she's the most skeptical.
Yes.
All right, I got it.
Yes. Ah! My chair just broke. I almost fell backwards onto the ground. Did you do that with your mind powers?
So sorry. I gotta watch it.
You have
it's something
lost
I've always been
all
meaning
credibility
to watch.
with everyone listening right now.
All
You
right,
haven't
Dean,
seen
I need you to
any of
edit
the-
this whole part out. Dean, I need you to
haven't
edit this
seen
part out.
any of it?
I have
Any?
Leave it in,
seen.
Dean.
I've seen an episode, and well, I think I've seen an episode because I have
Don't
a memory.
hide it from people, Dean. Don't do it.
He thinks he has a memory?
No, I have a memory of a man sitting in the back of the car, surrounded by like cigarette smoke.
Oh, cigarette smoking man.
Yeah, but I don't know
Okay.
anything about.
All
It's like a weird.
Were you playing Mass Effect? No,
No, but I have
roughly the
played
same,
Mass
yeah.
Effect. Like, so.
Okay, all right. It's confirmed. Rotten Popcorn, X-Files, it's happening.
But back to the topic. That's about all we know of the disappearance of this young girl. The local police and local law enforcement to this day still believe that it was an act of kidnapping and potentially something nefarious happening. But with lack of evidence and no reason to suspect anything else, it's basically gone down as a potential death from exposure after she wandered off into the wilderness in the middle of the night. But we won't
It's
know.
crazy that they think kidnapping. I would just imagine nature.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that. It's hard. This is another weird one because, again, wandering uphill is also kind of fucking weird. And for a barely 1 year old, a little over 1 year old, you got to remember she's not that old. But still, you don't know, man. It's weird. So
I will concede in both of these situations that it's a bit like there's some element of it that makes me go, huh?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I will say that, but I believe that the thing that's really going to take my third eye from like open to like maybe I got 4 eyes somehow. I don't know how the eye thing works, but
Nerd.
the thing that will take me to the next level is if the metadata is very convincing. That's the thing that I'm starting to like realize is like this alone is like a slightly mysterious disappearance. Same thing with the running guy, like slightly mysterious disappearance, like that is somewhat run of the mill, right? But is also a little bit like looking at the pictures, right? I'm a little surprised, right? Like that makes me go, oh wow, it's really, you can really see far from the summit.
I want to put forward that while taking these stories on their face value, I agree. Almost, majority of the ones I read anyway, all I feel like can be pointed at something relatively natural happening. What David Paulides and a lot of the people who, follow Missing 411 posit is what you're ignoring is there's a pattern. And now we'll talk about the pattern more next episode because there's multiple patterns I'd like to talk about from the missing, from the caves across America to the government bases and whatnot. But there are other patterns that they talk about are things that we've actually discussed in the past in terms of numerology. They say the person with the first letter S went missing on the same month at the same time in the same park as this person with the first name of letter S, and it matches. And if you just go through, but that's hard to kind of, again, that's hard to really posit, in my opinion, posit forward as an actual like pattern when you have so many missing people going every single year that of course, if you go looking for a pattern, your brain, the human brain is consistently looking for patterns all the time. So that's not enough for me to believe, but it is something we will talk about in the next episode. So you really have an idea where they're coming from. It's time for one of my favorite sponsors. This episode is sponsored by Manscaped. And if you haven't heard already, it's smooth sack summer, baby. When you're playing in the sun, make sure you're scaped from the pubes to bum. That's right, this is the summer to keep your balls cool while looking hot with Manscaped. The leader in below-the-belt grooming is making sure we all have a ball, wink, this summer by giving our pants partners everything they need to stay fresh. Dive headfirst into Smooth Sack Summer by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping with our code CHILL20. And diving headfirst into Smooth Sack Summer sounds like a really good time. The Manscaped Performance Package 4.0 has everything you need to prepare that summer bod. Inside this package, you'll find their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, Performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold your goodies. Their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. The Lawnmower 4.0 has a 7,000 RPM motor, a new multifunction on-off switch can engage travel lock, and gives you the ability to turn the 4K LED spotlight on and off when you need for a more precise shave. Did I mention this trimmer is waterproof too? Get 20% off and free shipping with code CHILL20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code CHILL20 at manscaped.com. It's Smooth Sack Summer, boys. Get on board or get left behind. Well, while I realize we're also already at an hour here, we'll just do one more story before we move on and end this episode with a new, fresh reminder as to how the missing 411 cases go. This is the disappearance of a young boy by the name of Lawrence Sullivan, who went missing on October 16th at 11 a.m. in Round Mountain, Nevada. Again, he was 3 years old. The location of this disappearance is Mount Jefferson in the Toyabee National Forest, just 7 miles northeast of Round Mountain, Nevada. A lot of missing little kids. A lot of little kids that go missing. Yeah. Round Mountain is located 150 miles southeast of Reno, has a population of just less than 2,000, and is in the middle of the Nevada desert. Mount Jefferson is located on a small mountain range that rises to an elevation of 11,900 feet with areas of heavy foliage and large trees. On October 16th, 1930, Lawrence Sullivan was riding with his uncle, John Sullivan, on a small trip for his uncle to examine a potential prospecting site in Jefferson Canyon. They were driving from Lawrence's residence in Manhattan, just south of Round Mountain. John was a gold miner and inspecting an area up the canyon near the 7,600-foot elevation point, where the road stopped. John parked the car and told Lawrence to stay inside as he hiked the small hill and examined the site. Again, we can kind of point to this as maybe the mistake that he made by leaving a 3-year-old inside a car at the 1930s.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's a pretty big mistake.
John reported that he walked to the top of the hill, looked back and waved at Lawrence, and then went to the other side. John returned to the car after a short inspection of the site and found Lawrence wasn't inside. A search was made of the surrounding area. There wasn't a lot of large timber in the immediate area, but he didn't see the boy. John left the area to obtain more assistance. Now you should take note of something important. Lawrence knew exactly where his uncle was at. He looked at him and waved, confirmed by his uncle. The boy knew what direction to walk him if his intent was to leave and find him. The area where Lawrence vanished is very rugged in parts, and he vanished in a valley surrounded by steep mountains. So again, I want to point this out and kind of highlight this, that if he just decided not to wander in the right direction, all it would have taken was a tumble. Searchers from Tonopah, Manhattan, and Round Mountain, along with sheriff's deputies and soldiers, all assisted in the effort to find Lawrence. Searchers initially were looking up the valley and downhill, and they found nothing. One searcher went slightly up a northern valley and found Lawrence's cap, an unusual find as it was uphill from the vehicle. Volunteers and deputies continued to comb the valleys where they had found the cap and still found nothing. It was during this entire event that John, searchers, and family were consistently yelling Lawrence's name and calling for him and not receiving a response. There was wild speculation in the community and newspaper at the time. It was actually printed that some felt an eagle may have taken Lawrence, as they found his cap in a canyon. As they found the cap in a canyon a mile away from the car, but they hadn't found tracks. So yeah, they just assumed, I guess, an eagle swooped down for a free meal and took the 3-year-old away.
It's a lot of stuff happening concurrently with each other. You know what I mean?
But I must stress this, since it's our last one. The likelihood of an eagle is as likely as any other insane thing that you can think up. And I think that's what makes these so believable and easy to get into, the mystery behind it.
A 3-year-old is a big boy.
Agreed.
That's a big boy for an eagle.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, if you can buy into an eagle, then you can easily buy into the idea that something more nefarious, or like, because you just said
fair.
An eagle.
Yeah, fair.
That boy's too big for an eagle. It must be something else, and then that's how you can get off onto all sorts of crazy things.
Yeah. Again, the cap was found in an alley like a mile away from where they were found. And past the cap, they did actually find small footprints. Bloodhounds had supposedly tracked the boy up a canyon and then suddenly lost all tracks. Searchers were upset and nervous about not finding Lawrence and summoned the assistance of a local Native American tracker. On October 20th, 1930, an article in the Reno Evening Gazette had the following description of the search. Quote, Oscar Mike, Indian tracker, picked up the trail where others said it had been lost, and it was believed that a mountain lion might have seized the wanderer and followed it up a precipitous cliff, forming the walls of the canyon, towering 500 feet high. The trail led up the face of this almost impassable wall to a beach or shelf scarcely wide enough for an eagle's nest. Now we should keep the perspective that this was a highly dangerous place for searchers, dangerous to the extent that they were using climbing ropes for their safety, and the tracker stated that the boy had traveled through this area. It was at this point that the first full day of tracking by the Native American ended, and the second day brought a surprise. The same Reno Evening Gazette article had the following, quote, the final dash was up a steep, narrow draw extending a few hundred yards from the main canyon. Joe Clifford was leading in the finishing sprint. The article has further descriptions about the dangers of the area and then finishes as follows, quote, at last, the overhanging, gnarled limb of the mountain mahogany barred the trail, sheltering the baby who was curled up under one protruding bough as an ox yoke circles the neck of a steer. Man, the 30s language is wild.
Oh, God. Did Ernest Hemingway write this shit? What the fuck?
Jesus. Searchers stated that any sudden movement by the boy could have broken his neck, but that he was asleep when found. He awoke when searchers started to prod him. The boy was found at 6:30 p.m. Lawrence had scraped knees, torn clothing, and scratches all over his body. He was slowly taken off the mountain to a hospital where he fully recovered. Not one of the dozen newspapers I reviewed for this, that Paulides rather had reviewed for this story, had one mention about Lawrence making a statement about ever what happened to him. And that's kind of where the mystery lies. The Gazette has one more quote saying, the most remarkable thing of the entire affair, according to Dr. MacLeod and others, is that the boy survived the bitter cold nights as the temperature dropped to nearly zero. At the point where the child was found, the elevation is nearly 9,000 feet, according to estimates made by the United States Survey Office in Reno. So they found him. It was one where he disappears, a 3-year-old disappears, and is found over a mile away, 9,000 feet high, curled up in a ball, still alive.
How much time has gone by?
4 days, I want to say it was that. Let me see if I can find that.
I mean, it's possible for a kid to wander over 4 days a mile away.
Let's see, the 16th to the 18th, so 2 days.
I can see it happening in 2 days, but it's less. It becomes less and less likely the shorter amount of time that. But I mean, like, I could wander a mile and not even mean it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not
True.
that far.
The fact that he survived is also like super cool and super unique that he was able to do it.
I'm glad he
wonder-
survived. It's just.
I wonder what happened. You know, again, he was 3, so I wonder if the memory is even there. But it's a bummer that we never got an interview with this guy, like what happened, how it went down, or any of that stuff. It's just I wonder what happened. I mean, the fact that he had no animal marks means no, he wasn't at least carried away by something. There was no claw marks or bite marks.
That's probably why he's alive.
Yeah,
I would
exactly.
imagine.
It's just interesting. It's another one of those things where just like weirdly disappeared and weirdly found in an area that a 3-year-old would have a very hard time getting to. Again, not impossible, but that's about that. And that, gentlemen, is where I'm going to lay the stories down. We could keep going through little stories, but I think this is a nice, like, lukewarm dip back into familiar territory before we do something a little bit different than we did in episode 2.
Give us a hint. What's coming up?
Well, I kind of gave you a hint a little bit. We'll probably do 1 or 2 more stories just as a refresh, but we're going to go through what the missing 411 beliefs are, what they think is actually going on here in terms of conspiracy, potentially paranormal or interdimensional. And then I want to talk about the new information that's come out since the years that we've done it and what has been released since, and maybe talk a little bit about the documentaries. I still have 1 more I need to watch, so I want to watch that before this week and next.
Do you have a total number of missing people? Have you said that before? I think you did, but I can't remember.
He's just like out of his books.
Just like in like the missing people in the forests that we have no sign of.
I think it's thousands a year.
I mean, I know it's very, very high.
About 1,600 individuals go missing into the United States national parks every year.
Okay.
There you go. We will return to this next week, everybody. Thank you so much. I'm very excited to return to the world of missing 411 after some time away from it. And it should be a lot of fun to dive even further next week. We're off to do a mini-sode over at patreon.com/ChilluminatiPod, as Alex has finally put it, a website. We love you guys.
It is the website that I like to go to.
Good enough. See you there next week. Bye, guys. Anyway, me and my wife were sitting outside indulging on our porch one night, enjoying ourselves. I needed to go to the bathroom, so I stepped back inside, and after a few moments, I hear my wife go, "Holy shit, get out here." So I quickly dash back outside, and she's looking up at the sky in awe. I look up too, and there's a perfect line of dozen lights traveling across the sky.